If you'd like to learn how to create local parts on your client's computers and then get rid of them on the server just for a particular player, then keep watching and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Welcome to Roblox Snippets. Now before we get started on the example at the beginning of the video, we need to get our house and a key to work with and create our local parts. So we'll add the assets to our project. So to do that, come up to our Home tab and we're going to click on Toolbox. And over here, I've already searched before. However, if you're in Marketplace and Models, that's what we're looking for, a model of a house. And we type in house. Go ahead and choose a house. Now I'm using a small house here. Now you want to be aware of any scripts that might be inside of any of these models. So usually, see this one here next to it, it has down a warning down here, has scripts. So you want to pick one. You don't have to use the same little house as me, but just make sure it doesn't have any scripts in it, all right? And then go ahead and left click on the house you want to use and it'll be added to the workspace. Alright, so once we have our house in here, let's spin it around. So we'll come up, now if you want to rotate something, you can hold down Control or Command on your keyboard and hit the R key and it should, there we go, rotate it around 90 degrees at a time until we get our door facing at us. And then the F key just to focus it, and we'll just move it down a little bit so it's on the ground. Or that's a bit below the ground. So somewhere like that. That's fine, just in front of our spawn point. Right, and we might just move our spawn point back a little bit so it's not right in front of our house. Okay, and that's our house. Now we're going to do the same thing to get a key. So come up to Toolbox and we'll get rid of house. And this time we'll type in key and have a search, and once again find a key that doesn't have a script in it. See, this one says door and key with a script, so we just want a key without a script. Alright, and in this case let's put it just inside, which is not going to work for us, so we'll just move it outside here and we can close that window and we've got our key. Now the next thing we're going to do is we talked about local parts, and we're going to create a local part that will represent the door in our house here. So in the workspace, come up and click on Part up the top, and we're going to move this part into the doorway and fill up the doorway to create a door. Alright, so just move it in there and we'll scale it up to the top of the door and then across. Alright. Okay, so, and we'll just move it, I think, back just towards us a bit, so it's sort of level. Alright, oh, it's a little bit short and a bit wide there. So now we could muck around with this for hours, but I'll just get it to look reasonably good. Okay, so that's serving the purpose of a door for our purposes. Now currently we'll come over, and this part here we want to change this, and we're going to call this our local door part. Now when the door part is sitting in the workspace like this, it's going to, when you run the game, it'll be on the server, and that's not what we want. What we want to do is create a local door part for each player in this house. So the house will be on the server, but the door will be on each client, and you'll get to see how that works shortly. But now that we have our door part, we want to move it into ReplicatedStorage. So left click on this and drag it down and place it into ReplicatedStorage. And we're going to spawn this door part into here. Now, if you come down to the position of our door part, this is where we want to spawn it to. Even though we've moved it in here, it's still represented in here at the moment. So because we're dealing with a local part that we want to spawn, we need to use a local script. Now local scripts will only work in certain places over here in these folders, so they won't work in the workspace because that's in the server, and they won't work in server script service. Alright, the places that they will work are starter GUI in here, that's one of them, the starter pack, which becomes your backpack, and these down here will also take local scripts, and also up here in replicated first. But For now, let's just click on the starter GUI and click on the plus sign next to it. And we're going to choose local script. Right, and we'll name this local script in here our spawn door local script. So I just like to add the word local on the end when you're using a local script, just to remind you that that is what it is. Right, and we'll get rid of our print hello world and drop down a couple of lines. So this script will simply, when the game runs, spawn that door part onto the client. And to do that, it needs to have access to our replicated storage where we put our part. So we'll create a variable over here by typing local and repstore equals game get service replicated storage. Alright, so this folder is a service and performs this function of holding these things for us. And just below this, we'll create a variable for the door, and we'll get it from the rep store. That's where we want to look. And we'll type in wait for child and inverted commas, and you'll see the local door part pops up, and you can hit enter. Now we use wait for child here, so colon wait for child, because when you're working with local scripts and parts and servers, sometimes they don't run and load at the same time. Therefore, this wait for child helps us to avoid errors and make sure this is available before we try to use it in the script down below. Right, we'll drop down a couple of lines, and now we will spawn our door. So local new door equals, and we'll take our door and a colon and use clone, and that will give us a copy of our original door, which we can put onto each player's client. And below here, we're going to position it now, so new door dot C-frame. So if you don't know what a C-frame is, a C-frame contains information for the position and the rotation of a part. However, we will, because we're just doing something simple, we'll create a new C-frame by typing C-frame dot new, and we're going to add in there the position of the door at the moment. Now, if we come to our door part in our replicated storage, where was it? I've just lost it. There it is, local door part. And scroll down into the properties, and you'll see C-frame and the position. So we want to left click in the position box so it's blue, and then Command or Control C will copy that information, and then click back in here and Command or Control V to paste. Now you can also right click and copy that, and then right click in here and paste it as well. Right, and that will give us the position where the door will go. The last thing to do is we need to parent this new part, so new door.parent will equal, and we'll simply put it into the workspace. And that is all that is required for us to spawn the new door into our script. So let's click on File and Save, and we'll just give it a quick run and make sure our door spawns where it should. Alright, so you'll see I'm in the game and I run over here and we have a part here that is filled in for our door, and this is on the server. Now if you come up the top and you'll see current client, so this is now the server. Alright, so we're looking at the server copy and we can't move in here, but you'll see nothing appears there because when we click on this, it's only appearing on the client. Alright, which is good, that's what we want. So we'll come up and click on stop. Alright, so the next thing that we will do is we will look at how can we use this key to get rid of or open the door. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll come up to our workspace, and remember this key part, which is currently called mesh part here, so let's change that to be key part. Alright, so this key part is sitting on the server, and what we need to for it to do is when we pick up this key, we're going to make it when they pick up the key, it's going to destroy or remove the door on just their client. Alright, so it won't happen for everybody in the game, just for the person who picks up the key. Alright, so that's an important thing to remember, is that this is a server script we're going to put in here. So if you click on the key part and click on the plus sign now, and come down and click on script. So script is for server, and we will rename this our key script. Right, and get rid of our print statement. Now, as we the way that this works is that we need to, when they pick up the key, we need to know which player it was, so that we can then communicate with their server, with their client, from the server. And the way we do that is we use a thing called a remote event. So come down to our replicated storage, where our door is, and just to the right, click on the plus, and you'll find in here a remote event. So go ahead and click on this, and we're adding a remote event in here, and we will change the name of our remote event to door event. And we're going to use this for the server and the clients to communicate with one another. Alright, so inside of our key script, we'll need a reference or access to our rep storage. So we'll type local rep store equals game, and you could have get service, copy and pasted this, but that's fine. And now we'll create a variable for this new event that we just created here. So local, and we'll call it just event. You could call it door event if you like. And we want to get the door event from the rep store. So rep store colon wait for child, inverted commas, and you'll find door event. So go ahead and hit enter. And the other variable that we need is one for the key itself. So key equals, and that will simply be script.parent. So there are our three variables. So now what we're going to do is when a player touches the key, we're going to trigger a function that will let us use our event. So we'll say key, alright, dot, and the event will be being touched. So touched, and when the key is touched, we'll connect, so a colon and then connect a function. So we type the word function and then add a set of parentheses there. Just move outside of that and hit enter, and it should look like this. So this is what's known as an anonymous function. So it doesn't actually have a name, but it's connected to this event over here. So when this happens in the game, this function gets triggered. Now, because we're expecting a character or a player to touch this, we need some way of passing in, well, which part of that player touched. So we'll put in here a parameter called hit, and that will represent which body part of the character hit the key. And from that information, we can now get our player. Now, we're going to do it this way, and we'll say local player equals, and we're going to look in game.players, and then we're going to put a colon and get player from character. So inside of here now, we can put in here hit.parent. And I'll just get rid of this so I can explain. Alright, because this can be a bit confusing. Now, the part that hits the key could be the player's foot or leg, etc. And then its parent will be the character itself. So you can write the line like this, or you could create a new variable here, character equals hit.parent. And then you could put in here character. Okay. But because we don't really need the character in this instance, we can eliminate this line here and simply put in hit.parent. Alright, so hopefully that makes sense as to how we get our player here. Right, so once we have our player, we can say if player, then, so if it's a player, it will allow this to run. And what we want to do is destroy the key. So key and destroy, so that they picked up the key. And at the same time, we want to then send a message to the player's client to destroy the door. And we do that by saying event, and then add a colon and fire client. Now when you type this, it'll want to know, well, which player or which client is it? And we just got our player here, so we can simply add in here player. Right, and that is all that's needed in order for us to get this to work. So we'll just click on File and Save. Now, if you ran the game now, when we picked up the key, the only thing that would happen is that we would destroy the key, because now on the client we need a way to detect, well, when this message is sent from the server. All right, so I'll just open up my Explorer and Properties window again, and we're going to do that over here. We need another local script, and we'll put it inside of our starter player, starter character script. So click on that and then the plus sign, and we'll add a local script. We'll change the name of this to be destroy door local. All right, and get rid of our hello world. Now the first two lines that we had in our key script, so if you've still got that open, good, otherwise open it up. We can grab these first two lines here and just copy them. So come down and highlight those, and then right click and copy if you like. Come over to our new local script and paste those in. And now all we need to do in here is have this script waiting for a message from the server. So we do that by saying event.onClientEvent. All right, so when the server sends a message, it comes to the client, and the client goes, oh, there's something happening, we want to do this. And we connect, once again, a function, add our parentheses, move over one and hit enter, and it should look like this. And we need one line in here to destroy the door. So we say game.workspace, and then we're going to wait for child. Now we say wait for child because remember we're spawning the door, and if the door doesn't exist yet, then this will error. So we say wait for child, and we're going to add a set of inverted commas. Now it has to be the same name as what we called it in here. So we gave it quite a long name in here. Where is it? I keep losing my, here it is, local door part. All right, so it has to be this one here. So in here, local door part. Would have been easier just to call it door, but anyway. All right, so local door part, and make sure the, did I do there? That's right, local door part up here. So make sure the capitalization and everything is correct. And then at the very end of this, we'll add a colon and destroy. And that is all that is needed to make this work to destroy the door. All right, so we've got all of our scripts. So we can shut that, shut this, and shut this. Now we can run it and test it with one player. However, the purpose of this was to show you how it can work with multiple players. So if you come up to test your project with multiple players, what we do is we'll come up to the top up here and click on Test. All right. Now, just before we do this, however, there's something I forgot, and we'll just double check. If we come over into ReplicatedStorage and click on the local door part and scroll down, and we want to make sure that Can Collide is turned on. So it's checked like this, and anchored. Now, anchored may have been off like this, but make sure it's anchored, and that way the part will stay where we put it. So if that is the case, you can come up and click on File and Save. And clicking on the Test tab, you'll see we have this local server, and we want to choose 2 players from the drop down. And once you've done that, go ahead and click on the Start button. Now this is going to open multiple windows. We'll have this original window sit here like this, and then one window will open, and this will represent the server. And we can just minimize this, so don't close it, but just click on the minimize or minus button there to move it off the screen. And then we should have 2 other screens pop up in a second that will represent each of our players. So we have one for player 1 and one for player 2. So we'll just let those finish loading. A little bit slow. Right, so once they have both sort of loaded up, we'll get rid of our Explorer window by clicking on the X and the properties, just to give ourselves a bit more space in each of the windows. And here we have a representation now of player 1 and 2. So if I click on this one over on the left and I move, it's actually player 2 on the left. So you'll see that I'm moving around as player 2. And if I click over on this one, I'm now player 1. So as player 1, if I run over and I pick up our key, you'll notice that the key disappeared and the door also disappeared. But if you look over here on player 2's, you'll see that the door still is in the house. Now as player 1, I can run inside the house because I got the key first. Alright, and poor old player 2, he doesn't have a key and his door's still there, and if he tries to come inside, he can't get in. Alright, now this is very useful, not just in this situation, but if you created a game with, say, an area where you didn't want players to go until they got to a different level, then you could use a part like this that could be invisible, or a wall, or anything it could be. You can make use of these to control where your players can and can't go at various stages of your game. So when you're finished testing, to clean this up, we click on just one of the cleanup buttons up the top, and it will shut all of the windows. And you may have this disconnected sign. Just click on leave if that pops up for you, and you should be returned back to our original project window after that. Alright, so I hope you found that interesting, and I will see you in future videos. If you found this video useful and you'd like to learn more about my online courses, go to mrbrendanross.com.